miq të vështat, sot jemi në një vend shumë të veçantë, ku çdo ditë trajtohen qindra pacient për probleme shëndetësore, por gjithashtu marrin edhe një përkujdes tjetër. Sigurisht është përkujdesi shpirtëror. Jemi në spitalin e Shën Lukës në Selanik të Greqisë, ku janë trajtuar raste nga Greqia, nga Shqipëria dhe nga vendet e tjera rreth e qark. Ne kemi kënaqësinë që të mirëpritemi sot në zyrën e doktor Katsarkas, i cili është vizionari dhe drejtuesi i kësaj pune. Doktor Katsarkas, faleminderit që na keni mirëpritur në zyrën tuaj.
Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure for me to meet people like you.
Kemi dëgjuar nga njerëz të shumtë që kanë ardhur për të trajtuar në spitalin tuaj dhe jemi frymëzuar shumë nga ajo që ju bëni këtu për çdo ditë. Ndaj dëshironim të vinim t'ju vizitonim dhe të shihnim se si Zoti ju ka drejtuar në punën tuaj. Dhe çfarë jeni duke bërë konkretisht? Pyetja ime është se cili është vizioni mbi të cilin u hap ky spital.
How did the vision of this hospital first started?
It's a long story and it goes back when I was a student in the medical school here in Thessaloniki. I saw two things which impressed me very much. The first one was that very often in our hospital we treat the patients in an inhuman way. We forget that they are people with feelings, with future, with fears, with families. And we speak about cancer in number 5 and leukemia in number 4, and we forget that the cancer and the leukemia are people. This was the first things which impressed me. And the second one was that we are not prepared to face the fact of death. I still remember the first patient I saw dying in the hospital. He was a very old man, and it was evident that he's going to die. A fellow student came to me and told me, come to see how people die. And I went to see. And when I saw him, I ran to a nurse. And I told her, please come, this one is dying. And she told me, young man, are you new here? I said, yes. And she told me, you must know that people die. Okay, I said, but do something to help him, to give him some help. She didn't do anything, and the man died. Then I went out of the room, and just across the door, I saw his widow. She was sitting down, crying, and people were going up and down in the corridor in tense, and no one paid any attention to her. And I said to myself, well, if someone goes and sits next to her and takes her hand, this is very important, but where shall we find people who are willing to do this job? This was the beginning. And then I met a man from South Africa. He was a man of God. He used to travel all over the world. He had traveled, I think, in 140 countries, visiting hospitals and trying to find doctors, nurses, people who work in hospitals, and give them the vision of the spiritual work in their profession. He used to say two things. First, most people go through the doors of the hospitals every year than through the doors of the churches, which means that the hospital is a better field for the Lord than the church. And the second thing he used to say, when you are healthy, you are like that and you look like that. But when you are ill, you are like that and you look like that. Which means that people who are under illnesses, they are more open to the gospel. So these people impressed me. And when I finished my studies, when I graduated, I was invited in a conference for Christian doctors in Denmark. And then I met some people who were working in the mission field, in mission hospitals, which were primitive, but they tried to combine medicine with spiritual work. And this was my first vision. I was only 28 years of age, and I had this idea, this vision, to try to do something in my country. I began to pray for it. But when I met some of the people in the church and I told them my vision, everyone said exactly the same thing. Brother, this is excellent, wonderful, but impossible. Where can you find so much money? But some people began to pray. And after some time, I wrote a letter to Mr. Zodiatis, who was the president of AMG International, a mission in the United States. He was Greek, Cypriot Greek. And I explained to him my idea. And he answered back and he told me, I have the same vision. Years later, he explained to me that when he wrote that letter, he had not even $1 available for the job. But some people began to pray. And it was in 1963 that I got a letter from the mission stating that we decided to establish a Christian hospital in Thessaloniki in memory of our first president, who was also a Greek, Mr. Lambridis. For some years we did nothing but praying and waiting, and then I was sent some money, and they told me find a piece of ground. I went to different places in Thessaloniki. I wanted to come here to Panorama, but some people told me don't go to Panorama, because in Panorama live rich people and they don't want to sell their properties. But I came, I found here only 5 stremata, we say in Greek, which is a rather small area. It was the first piece of ground we bought. And then for 4 years we did nothing but waiting and praying. And then in '69, I was given the green light, start the job. For 5 years, we spent 5 years in a special way, with enthusiasm, with ideas and thoughts and so on, and then disappointments and many times I thought, this is the end, let's forget about it and go home. And the mission in the United States was against me, angry, saying, you always ask for money. Well, what can I do without money? And then in '74, we were almost ready to start the job, but at that time there was a danger of war between Greece and Turkey. And so the whole thing was postponed for another year. And on April 18, 1975, we said, we are ready. We had beds, we had operation theaters, we had nurses, we had doctors, but no patients at all. And for 1 week, no one came. And I thought no one will come ever. And then the first lady came here, and she was met at the door from 4 people who were giving her flowers, and she didn't understand why. From that time up to now, we have treated almost 800,000 people. It is already 48 years. The Lord bless us, and we saw people coming here, and we try to combine the medical with the spiritual work.
Në fakt, doja që t'ju pyesja se çfarë e bën spitalin Shën Luka unik.
You know, it is unique because we always have in our minds that people who come here are human beings with many different needs. Of course, the main need for which they come is their health, but they have also spiritual needs. Sometimes they don't know about them, but we know. And so we try to combine medical with spiritual work. I always remember that when Christ sent his disciples, he told them, go, preach, and heal. And this is exactly what we do here, preaching and healing. And we do it in many different ways. For example, we have 3-minute gospel message through loudspeakers in the rooms, morning and evening. We have Gideon New Testaments in all of our rooms. We have some scripture on the walls, and we encourage those of our personnel who are Christians to meet the patients and give their testimonies. And the Lord blessed us, and we have seen people who came here to be treated physically, and they went home with Christ in their hearts. This is very important.
A mund të ndani me ne disa informacione në lidhje me pavionet ku njerëzit mund të trajtohen në Spitalin e Shën Lukës?
Yes, we have 278 beds. We have all the specialties of medicine and surgery. We don't have psychiatry. We don't have nuclear medicine, and we don't have radiotherapy. Now we are building a new building next to ours, and we are going to have radiotherapy there. It will be ready after 6 months maybe. And this is very important because we have many oncological cases, and many people need radiotherapy. So combination radiotherapy with chemotherapy will be very good for these people. So everyone who comes here, except those who have, say, psychic problems, can find someone to help them.
You have been treating patients.
Ju keni mjekuar pacient nga Greqia, por e di gjithashtu se kanë ardhur edhe pacient nga vendet fqinje. Si ka funksionuar?
At first, there were some missionaries in Albania, in Skopje, in Bulgaria, in Kosovo, who used to send some patient to us. And at first there were few, but it seems that they were satisfied. And so little by little more people used to come here. And we are always in contact with believers in the neighboring countries, especially in Albania, so that we know who are the people who come here and who sends them. It's a blessing to meet people from Albania, for example, who come with difficulties, with problems, and if the Lord gives us the means to help them, it's a blessing first for us and then for them.
Në fakt doja t'ju pyesja për lidhjen tuaj të parë me Shqipërinë. Si mësuat për herë të parë për Shqipërinë dhe cilat ishin përshtypjet tuaja?
What have been your thoughts?
It is very interesting. When the way was opened, the Ministry of Health from Albania, Mr. Tritan Sehu, came here. He sat there and told me, I want to send you patients, but don't ask for money, we don't have any. He was a medical doctor too. I told him, okay, but don't send many of them, send 2 by 2. And he used to send 2 by 2, and so we treated a good number of them. And this was a kind of advertisement in Albania, because these people went home satisfied, and more people began to come here. And we thank the Lord for all those who came and whom we could help physically and spiritually.
Ju ndat me ne disa nga vështirësitë që keni hasur në fillimet e hapjes së spitalit. A mund të kujtoni ndonjë moment të vështirë përgjatë gjithë këtyre 48 viteve? Nëse mund të ndani pak prej tyre.
The most difficult moments were the first. When we had 3 patients and the 3 became 5, it was a big problem. Nowadays, every day we have more than 100 people who come here, admissions, inpatients, which means 3,000 a month. And this is something natural, but at that time it was very difficult. I still remember the first 2 injured people who came here after a car accident. The specialist in orthopedics was a believer. And he called me and told me, I'm bringing 2 patients for operations. They came here, and the first problem was that we had not blood available for them. And the doctor, this doctor, gave his own blood, which was used in the operation by himself. And I used to tell him this must be written in medical history, that the surgeon gave his own blood to help the patient during the operation. This was the beginning. At first it was very difficult, but little by little more people used to come here, and we got experience. At first we had to study everything from the beginning, every step, every moment. But because of this work, the whole, let's say, structure is very, very good. It's very functional, because knowing the steps, we form things in the right way, at least for most of them. And we thank the Lord. He blessed us in many different ways, something which we could never imagine. I still remember when I was a young doctor, just I had graduated, I took a piece of paper and I drew a, let's say, a schedule of a hospital in my mind. 3 rooms, an operating theater, that was all. And now we have 23 operating theaters here. We perform every day more than 100 operations, big and small. We have 2 big intensive care units. Our intensive care unit is the best in the whole country. Because, you know, we have in 1989, we started open heart surgery, which is very difficult because you need many people to core work, to organize and you know, Greeks are not willing to cooperate. Everyone knows better than the other one. But if you do it in heart surgery, the patient is going to die. So we started this, and we were obliged to have an intensive care unit, which is very, very good. And we thank the Lord for the people who sent here. We have people who learn to love the patients. Because if you don't love the patients, sometimes I say to doctors, if you don't love the patients, choose a specialty where you shall see blood and urine and such things, but no patients at all. Because if you have to do with patients, you must love them, especially the nurses. If you don't love the patient, go and find another job. I remember one nurse years ago told me there are bad smells here. And I told them, you know, if you go to a job where they have cologne and big sticks, it's very good. But here, this is our job. We must learn not to show the patient that there is something wrong with him. Smell, or what we see, what sometimes the behavior of the patient. When someone comes to the hospital, the first day, almost all of them are against us. They want to find their, let's say, way and do something. No one is there. We are there, and they are against us. The second day, they are better. The third day, they love us. And the fourth day, when they leave the hospital, they say, it's a pity that I'm leaving because I spent a very good time here with you. So we thank the Lord for this job, and we thank the Lord for the people He sent here to work. We have 700 people who work with us, and 500 medical doctors of different specialties.
It's a great number of people.
Oh, yes, a big number of people, and some of them have this, not all of them, but some of them have this vision to help the patient. You know that in the medical profession and in many other professions, there are people who have only one purpose, to gain money. That's all. Of course, this is important in life, but much more important is that we have to do with people. And if we learn to love them, as Christ loved them. Sometimes I say that in the medical schools, they had to have a lesson how to behave to the patient. And the example is Jesus Christ. He used to go, touch them. We read in the Bible, he stretched his hand and touched him whom? He was dirty, he was, humanly speaking, it was unpleasant to touch him. But Jesus Christ always touched people. And we must learn to do the same thing with love. It's not easy, but the Lord can teach people to do it.
You were the pastor of
Ju jeni pastori kishës ungjillore këtu në Selanik dhe në të njëjtën kohë drejtori një spitali shumë të madh. Si ndërthuren këto të dyja si pjesë e shërbesës suaj?
as part of your ministry.
Yes, this is a question that many people put to me. I am a pastor for almost 60 years now, and 48 years here. But this combination is not unusual. As I told you before, Christ sent his disciples to preach and to heal. And this is exactly what I'm doing in my life. I find it natural. This combination is a right combination, to my mentality at least. And I like to meet young doctors. I came twice to Albania and I met young doctors, and I tried to give them this vision, the vision of the spiritual aspect of our profession. As medical doctors, of course, we learn how to help people who are in need, but the spiritual need is very important. If we know to combine, it is the best thing.
You've mentioned
Ju përmendet se njihni shumë pacient për gjatë gjithë këtyre viteve sepse keni takuar shumë pacientë që kanë ardhur dhe janë larguar nga ky spital të shëruar. Por ju ndat me mua historinë e një fëmije i cili erdhi në spitalin tuaj për të trajtuar. A mund të tregoni pak më shumë për këtë histori, ju lutem?
Can you please share a little bit more about it?
You mean Markelio from Albania in this picture?
Po.
When the family came here, the boy was 10, 11, something like that. And he had a problem in his heart. He was born with a problem. And he had to be operated. At first they came, we didn't know them. I don't know if someone sent them here. And they asked what this operation will cost. We told them, I think, 12,000, something like that. And then we lost them. And after some time, some weeks, I told my secretary, what about that boy? She had the telephone number. We called them, and I told them, why don't you come for the operation? And they told me, we don't come because we don't have money. You ask 12,000 and we don't have even 1,000. What shall we do? I told them, please come. They came. I asked the specialist in open heart surgery to operate without any money, and the operation went very well. And now, from time to time, I learned that the boy is very well. He has become a tall young man. Now he must be about 20 maybe. And we thank the Lord that sent this boy here, and we had to help him. It was our duty. And it was a very fortunate thing that we had kept his telephone number.
Thank you.
Faleminderit, doktor Katsarkas. Ky është një model shumë frymëzues. Dhe ajo që ndat është me të vërtet nga Bibla. Madje edhe emri i këtij spitali është Shën Luka, i cili ishte doktor. Dhe faleminderit që e keni mbajtur këtë vizion për të shëruar njerëzit si nga ana fizike, por edhe nga ana shpirtërore. Një nevojë që vetëm Jezusi mund ta plotësojë. Ishte shumë frymëzuese për ne koha që kaluam me ju.
It was very inspiring for us to have this time with you.
Thank you very much also. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your interest to learn what we are doing here. And I hope we shall continue our cooperation you may send us some patients from Albania if there are some who need indeed.
Shpresoj se kjo intervistë do të jetë një përfitim për njerëzit që kanë nevojë për trajtim dhe janë të mirëpritur të vinë në spitalin e Shën Lukës.
I thank you very much.
Një paciente e trajtuar në spitalin e Shën Lukës këtu në Selanik, përpara disa kohësh më tha që në atë spital mbi të gjitha të shërojnë me fjalë. Dhe ne lutemi që modele të tilla frymëzuese të vazhdojnë të jenë prezente në Selanik, në Shqipëri, por edhe në çdo cep tjetër të botës. Faleminderit që na ndoqët.